Trump's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, admits now that a senior member of the Trump administration team told him to reach out to the Russian officials, and he did so. Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano tells the Fox Business Network earlier today that we could be on the verge of a constitutional crisis. Judge Napolitano is with us live now on the phone. Judge, how so?
Well, if Robert Mueller has enough evidence, credible evidence, with which to charge the President of the United States with a crime, the constitutional crisis will come as he decides what to do. Does he indict the President, which has never happened to a sitting President, or does he merely transfer this evidence over to the House of Representatives, which then will be under tremendous political pressure?
But he could indict. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, he could, Shep. Again, this has not happened, and we don't know where it would go if a sitting President is indicted. Now, not all the evidence is going to come from General Flynn. General Flynn presumably will lead them to others whom they will contact and indict, and from whom they'll extract information. He will probably also lead them to tangible things like emails and notes and memos and maps and the type of forensic evidence that prosecutors like to use.
Larry Littman writes in the New York Times today, among other things, it seems that the President-elect Trump himself directed Mr. Flynn to make contact with the Russian. If Mr. Flynn testifies to this, ABC's Brian Ross is reporting that he will, it presents another impeachable offense along with a possible obstruction of justice. Even more, it brings the whole matter well outside the purview of the criminal courts into the province of a political scandal, indicating abuses of power arguably well beyond those in the Watergate and Iran-Contra affairs. Your reaction?
Well, it would depend upon when this occurred. If this occurred while Donald Trump was a candidate and the purpose of communicating with the Russians was to facilitate, encourage, or justify their interference with the American political process, then you have a very serious criminal offense, which would probably constitute an impeachable offense. If it occurred afterwards, after he was the president-elect, when he knew he was going to be president and was not concerned about becoming president, you then have the interference with the foreign policy of the lawfully elected President Barack Obama, and that is an offense. I don't know if they are impeachable. They certainly are in the category of offenses that would be impeachable. But beyond this, the President of the United States has steadfastly, repeatedly, and consistently denied that he had any knowledge of any involvement with the Russians. If General Flynn contradicts that in a credible way under oath, we have a very serious problem on our hands.
The crux of all of this, as we have discussed here repeatedly, and specifically about 5 months ago, why all the lies? Why, now we know, lies from Flynn? Why the lies from Manafort? Why the lies from Papadopoulos? Why lie after lie after lie after lie? What is motivating you to lie? And it appears that is at the heart of whatever this is.
As I read the transcript of the statements the General made in court today and the documents he signed that were submitted to the court, Shep, and this is why it's significant as to when these conversations had occurred, it appears that the conversations had two motivations. One was to interfere with the Obama administration's foreign policy, because once we get into office, we're going to do something different. The other was to shield, to deceive, to cover up whatever communications had occurred with the Russians, between the Russians and the campaign before the election. Yesterday, you and I discussed this on your show. We talked about 30 known communications between the campaign and the Russians. We now know that there were more, and these would be the ones engaged in by General Flynn himself.
Judge Andrew Napolitano, excuse me, thank you.
You're welcome.
Continuing coverage ahead.